Can you guys feel it? The love in the air? Romance is one of my absolute favorite genres in anime. There are very few things in this medium that warm up my heart quite as much as watching two characters bond throughout a show and fall deeper and deeper in love. It can stir up emotions within me that I didn't even know I had access to. It can even add some extra spice to a story that's primary focus isn't even about romance. I am such a big fan of the genre that I truly believe there are very few stories that aren't improved with a bit of romance thrown in the mix. Here's the catch, however. Outside of anime, I hate romance. I don't care for Hollywood rom-coms, I don't necessarily prefer if my live-action show has some romance in it, and overall I can do without it in most Western media. But when it comes to anime, I just simply can't get enough. Well, for all of you romantics, hopeless or otherwise, I'm Captain Lupe, and I'm here to explain why me and so many others can't get enough of anime romance, but don't really care for most Western romances. And believe me, there are plenty of romances to dive into. Romance is a genre that doesn't really need a quick history lesson. This genre can trace its roots back to the beginning of human speech. Hell, it probably even predates human speech and had some cavemen drawing stories about their favorite waifus. But as everyone knows, the equation in its simplest form is, well, quite simple. You take character 1, character 2, add feelings of love, and you have the romance genre. The simplicity of this genre is the main reason that it's one of the most prevalent genres in storytelling. While romance can be the first and foremost driver within a story, it can also take a passenger seat and be something to drive character interactions and character development. This has led romance to be my 8th most consumed genre, only behind other genres that cover even wider scopes. Because of the broad spectrum that this genre can cover, even if you just limit it to primarily romance first series, romance can come in many different flavors, leading to a vast difference within the genre when you compare it across different cultures and mediums, especially between anime and traditional Western media. No different to the anime medium, romance is a massive genre within Western media. Movies, TV shows, and books are all flooded with so much romance content that you would have your plate full for years to come. Whether it's a blockbuster Hollywood rom-com, a long-spanning sitcom loaded with romantic toils, or one of the 185 books that Danielle Steele has stored away in that romantic brain of hers. And for the most part, I don't really care for any of it. Western romances typically focus on the more realistic or lifelike side of the genre. Romance and love in real life is at times ugly and painful, and a high percentage of Western romances focus on that fact. They take the simple equation I gave earlier and add hardships, turmoil, differences, and realism. The way I describe Western romance is they typically follow the will they or won't they get together side of romance. This focusing is where they add in all the extra spices to make the romance within the story a closer representation to what you might find in real life, which is painful and ugly at times. This is the exact reason that I don't really care for most Western romances. I am happily married, and this isn't some plea for help, but in real life, romance isn't some daydream that never has any issues or problems arise. Even if you have a perfectly healthy relationship like me and my wife do, there will still be roadblocks to overcome and kinks to work out. For me personally, I don't really enjoy or care for romances that try this more realistic approach. I know that probably sounds weird to some of you, as some of the best stories are those which reflect reality or strive for realism, whether literally or metaphorically. But for some reason, when it comes to romance, I much prefer the stories which focus on all the good sides of romance. And one such medium that oftentimes has exactly what I'm looking for is the anime medium. First, I want to say this isn't a one-size-fits-all statement, as obviously there are Western romances closer to what I'm about to describe, just as there are anime romances that take a more realistic approach. But for the most part, anime tends to focus on the good sides of romance, or the childish side of romance. The type of romance everyone dreams about, which is where two people come together and are just simply meant for each other, something akin to, say, soulmates. There might be some road bumps per se, but it's usually due to misunderstanding or because a character is too shy or scared to open up to their feelings. It's a much closer representation to the romance genre in its purest form, straying very little from the equation that I gave earlier. And where Western romances typically follow the will they or won't they get together story structure, anime tends to follow the when will they get together structure. To some, that difference in description might seem small, but it can make a world of difference. Will they or won't they implies turmoil, hardship, and differences to work out. When will they implies they will get together, no matter how long it might take for them to officially be together in a relationship. Star-crossed lovers, soulmates, two peas in a pod, whatever you might call it. It's two characters that simply have so much chemistry with each other that from the beginning it's clear as day that everything in the world is bringing them together, even if they don't see it or deny it's happening for a while. This is the type of romance that I just simply can't get enough of, and call me simple-minded, but fairy tale romances just warm my heart more. And there are two main branches of anime romance that we need to discuss. Spoiler alert for the anime you see on screen. I won't be going into great detail with these anime, but I will be spoiling the end of every single one of them. This is your warning. And this is a cool picture I took while in Japan. Okay, warning over. The first branch is what I would call the standard anime romance. This involves one main character and one love interest. And that's really all there is to it. Now, this doesn't mean there can't be other characters that try and throw their hat in the ring, but these characters have to be throwaway love interests that were never really an option to begin with. Now, some anime do the tango on top of this line and start to lean into the next branch of anime I'll talk about after this. Some anime that fit the standard romance anime archetype are Love is War, The Dangers in My Heart, Kimi ni Todoke, and Toradora. Love is War is a perfect example of the when will they get together story structure. It couldn't be any more clear from episode 1 that Kaguya and Miyuki will eventually get together. It's just a matter of how long will that take. And at no point do any real outside love interests show up to stir the pot. The Dangers in My Heart is another great example. Even though Kyotaru starts the series by saying he loathes Anna and wants to literally murder her, they make it very clear that he likes her as early as episode 1, and he literally admits to himself that he likes her as early as like episode 4. Kimi ni Todoke is more of an OG romance series. It has many instances that have you screaming at your screen for Sawako and Shota to finally just kiss and get together. But they take their sweet innocent time doing it. Toradora is one that some of you might be scratching your heads as to why it's a standard anime romance. Yes, technically the anime features two love triangles, and technically has multiple love interests for the main characters Taiga and Ryuji, but I would argue they don't really count. They make it absurdly obvious as early as episode 1, or at minimum about episode 6-ish, that Taiga and Ryuji are endgame. Some drama does happen to make you think that one of the other characters might swoop in, but personally at no point did I ever really doubt the ending, since Minori and Yusaku never really make any moves of their own, and Ami was pretty obviously just a curveball thrown in the mix. But anime that take this concept even further belong in the next branch of anime romances. This next style of anime romance is far less culturally accepted as the standard romance. And that's because of its weird connections, no matter how loosely, to polygamy and cheating. When you break it down, really the only thing that differentiates this branch from the standard branch is the fact that there is more than one love interest. Now that can literally just be one more love interest forming that oh so common triangle, or it can also mean 5, 10, or really any number of love interests. A lot lot of anime in this category specifically are the reason that the anime medium as a whole is so stigmatized. The trick with most of these anime is that usually it's extremely easy, if not right in episode 1, who will end up being the winner of the competition. Some great examples of this branch are Nisekoi, Fruits Basket, Snafu, and Quintessential Quintuplets. Nisekoi is the series that popularized the term waifu wars, having one of the most heated debates back in the day over which girl deserves to win. But sorry to my Onodera fans out there, it was absurdly obvious from the get-go that Chitoge was going to win. Fruits Basket is one with a bit more nuance to it and is also one of the best anime romances, period. But even then, as soon as the season 1 finale, they make it very clear who will end up winning Toru's heart in the end. Snafu is another series with a tad bit more nuance to it. This series is also interesting in the fact that romance oftentimes plays second fiddle to the daily life struggles of being a teenager. But let's be real, if you ever thought Yui was going to beat out Yukino, then you probably never watched season 2 or 3. Quintessential Quintuplets is one that for the most part actually throws its viewers for a pretty good loop as to who ends up winning Futaro's heart in the end, making this series one of the best harem romances in all of anime. Some people thought that Itsuki would win since she was the first girl introduced, while others thought that Miku or Nino would win since they were the most forward with their feelings. But in the end, Yotsuba ends up winning, who, like Ichika, most people consider to be an unwinnable option. Love or hate the harem subgenre, it has some stellar anime that prove even this highly stigmatized genre can have some of the best romances within all of anime. Personally, I'm a fan of both branches of romance, and typically I would say that the love triangle story structure is probably my favorite. I love every single romance I listed in this video, and it's for the exact reasons I listed earlier in the video. Every one of them follows the when will they get together story structure, even the ones that have more than one love interest. They don't try too hard to force hardships into these relationships. It's simply just characters that fall for each other so hard that love triumphs all else. And as a fan of romance and love within stories, it's these exact stories that I love to consume at an unhealthy rate. Chika is best girl, Anna is best girl, Sawako is best girl, Ami is best girl, Sugimi is best girl, Arisa is best girl, Saki is best girl, and Ichika is best girl. It had to be said.